Good to see you again. We will now look at the review questions for Chapter 4. So let me see if I can figure out how to do the screen sharing again. So here we are. We'll start. Question 1. So this is on services. So what is the electrical supply in the form of conductors and equipment that provides electric power to the building or structure? And that is the service. Okay. What is the overhead conductors between the service point and the utility electric supply system? That's the service drop. Okay, the blank is the underground service conductors that connect the utility's electrical distribution system and the service point. This is number 3. That's the service lateral. Okay, the blank, this is number 4, is the point of connection between the local electrical utility company and the premises wiring of the building or structure. So that should be the service point. Five. The 5, 6, and 7 are true, false. So 5, occupancies which utilize a fire pump for life safety protection are permitted to have a separate service provided solely for the fire pump. That is true. Hubs for use with service masts shall be identified for the use. That is also true. Number 7 is false. Which conductors are the service? So now we're on number 8. Which conductors are the conductors that extend from the service disconnecting means to the service point, where the service point is located at the connections made at the service drip loop? That's overhead service entrance conductors. Number 9, special permission. Is the written consent of the authority having jurisdiction or the AHJ. 10. As a general rule, there shall be how many feet minimum clearance from final grade for all overhead service conductors? That would be 10 feet. Number 11, only service conductors shall be installed in service raceways or service cables. That's true. 12, for a panel board to be suitable for use as service equipment, not more than 6 main disconnecting means may be provided. True. 13, where it is impractical to mount service heads above the point of attachment, the service head or gooseneck shall be permitted to be located not more than how many inches from the point of attachment of the overhead service conductors? That's number 13. And that's 24 inches, which would be D. 14, individual meter socket enclosures. Whoa, let me move this paper a bit so you can see. Individual meter socket enclosures are not considered, need not be marked as suitable for C, all the above, D, none of the above. So the correct answer is individual meter socket enclosures are not considered service equipment and need not be marked as suitable for service equipment. So the correct answer is C. Turn the page. This is on clearances. We get the paper squared away here. So we're referring to the picture down at the bottom of the page. So clearances. Did I miss some? No, excuse me. I got ahead of myself. I forgot. We got another side to this. Sorry about that. So we will start with 15. So 15, the service disconnecting means shall consist of not more than 6 switches or circuit breakers. So that's 6 or C. As a general rule, number 16, the service disconnecting means is required to have a rating which is equal to or greater than the load to be carried. So that is C. 17, 18, and 19 are true and false. We'll start with 17. Conductors located on the line or supply side of the service point are covered by the National Electric Code. That is false, because that's part of SDG&Es or the local serving utility. 18, service conductors are provided overcurrent protection by overcurrent protective devices that have a rating or setting not higher than the allowable ampacity of the conductor. That's true. 19, overhead service conductors are required to be insulated or covered. That's also true. 20, the 8-foot minimum vertical clearance for overhead service conductors shall be maintained in all directions for a minimum distance of 3 feet from the edge of the roof. 21, service mast, whoops, lead broke. Is an assembly consisting of service raceway, guy wires or braces, service head, and any fittings necessary for the support of overhead service conductors. 22, direct buried conductors emerging from the ground shall be protected from physical damage up to a point which is at least 8 feet above finished grade. 23, 100 amp, 3-wire service is the minimum service disconnecting rating required for any one family dwelling. That's true. 24, type SE cable is a factory assembled cable assembly consisting of 1 or more conductors with a flame retardant, moisture resistant covering used primarily for services. 25 and 26 are true and false. So 25, service disconnecting means are permitted to be installed in Bathrooms? That doesn't sound right. That's got to be false. And 26, a minimum service disconnecting rating of 30 amps is required for service loads that consist of not more than 2-wire branch circuits. True. $27, service equipment. Is all of the necessary equipment to control the supply of electrical power to a building or structure. 28, service conductors are permitted to be routed within the building if they are installed under not less than 2 inches of concrete beneath the building or structure. Minimum size for most overhead service conductors is C, which is both A and B. So A is number 8, American wire gauge copper. B is number 6, American wire gauge aluminum. So when we go from copper to aluminum, we need a larger conductor. And 30 is also C. Service entrance cables shall be supported at intervals not exceeding 30 inches and within every 12 inches of every service head, gooseneck, or point of connection to a raceway or enclosure. All right. So that covers that. And we can look at the clearances. So the first one, clearance from final grade at A, subject to pedestrian traffic only and 150 volts or less to ground, is 10 feet. A. Clearance from final grade at B. B says not subject to truck traffic and 300 volts or less to ground. That would be 12 feet. B. The clearance from final grade at C. C says not subject to truck traffic and over 300 volts to ground. I'm listening. I'm not hearing anything. So that would be 15 feet. Clearance from final grade at D. So D, subject to truck traffic and not over 600 volts to ground. That would be 18. D. Clearance from final grade at E, which is from the drip loops to the ground, is 10 feet. That's A. And 6, the final clearance at F, which is from the top of the roof to the service connection point. F is what is that? I think they've drawn that improperly. But I think that they meant that to be from grade also. So that would have been 10 feet, otherwise 3 feet. So I'll have to come back and take a look at that one. because I don't think that's drawn properly. And I think for the time being, that concludes that, or is there more? No, we got some more. Happy days. Connectors. I thought we were done. I was hoping we were done. So for the connectors, the first one, compression, that's B. The second one, mechanical, that's A. The third one, the quick tap, that's C. So minimum clearance at A. So now we're moving down to the service conductor clearances. We have 3 of those. So the first one is A. And that is no minimum. Minimum clearance at B is 3 feet. That's C. Minimum clearance at C, which is from the side of the window, that's also 3 feet. So that is C. So we move down to the service equipment. So the load center is D. Circuit breaker enclosure is B. The panel board is A. And the service disconnect switch is C. And now we're done with the review questions for chapter 4. So we can stop sharing. Shrink that down. What happened? Stop recording.